You know, when we think about where our food comes from, our minds usually go straight to things like soil and roots, right? But what if I told you the real architects, the MVPs of our entire food system, are these silent, winged, and yeah, crawling allies? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this incredible, intricate network and finally give them the spotlight they so deserve.
So just how important are we talking? Well, let's just jump right into the big picture. Check this out. A whopping 75%, that's 3/4 of all our food crops. I mean, everything from the mustard in your fridge to the mangoes in your smoothie, they all rely directly on these little creatures to reproduce. Seriously, without them, our dinner plates and honestly our whole planet would look completely different. It'd be unrecognizable. And look, this isn't just some abstract ecological thing. We're talking about economics on a massive, massive scale. The natural service of pollination. What these creatures do for us is valued at somewhere between $235 and $577 billion every single year. That's the value nature is just giving us for free. And it's literally what underpins our entire global food security. It's just staggering.
All right, so here's where we're headed today. First, we'll get into the power of pollination, but also the serious peril it's in. Then, we're going to meet nature's very own pest managers. After that, we'll explore how we can actually design our farms and gardens to support our allies. And finally, we'll zoom out and talk about the big one, healing the entire web of life.
Okay, let's dive into our first section, pollination's power and peril. This is really a story about one of the most incredible partnerships in all of nature, but it's a partnership that's now in some serious trouble. So, at its core, pollination is just a brilliant deal that's been worked out over millions of years. Think of it this way. Flowers put up these big, flashy advertisements, bright colors, sweet smells, and offer up a reward, sugary nectar. In exchange, visitors like bees, butterflies, even beetles act like a delivery service, carrying pollen from one flower to another, helping the plant reproduce. It's the perfect win-win situation. And in this incredible workforce, bees are without a doubt the MVPs. I mean, they're the undisputed champions. A single honeybee can visit thousands of flowers in just one day. That makes them unbelievably efficient and absolutely vital to this whole operation. But this beautiful, vital partnership is in serious trouble. And what's the main culprit? A class of pesticides called neonicotinoids. You can basically think of them as nerve agents for insects. The big problem, though, is that they're not surgical. They're like a blunt instrument. They can't tell the difference between a pest we're trying to get rid of and a pollinator we desperately, desperately need.
And the impact? It's just devastating. In some parts of the world, we've seen pollinator populations crash by more than 40%. And let's be clear, this isn't just a small dip. It's a full-blown collapse. And it directly threatens that 75% of our food crops we were just talking about. The stakes are incredibly high.
Okay, so let's shift gears and meet another amazing group of our allies. Because beyond just pollination, there is a whole army of beneficial insects out there, and they're providing over $100 billion in free natural pest control services. Pretty incredible, right? Now, these natural pest managers basically fall into two main camps. On one side, you've got the predators. These are the hunters of the insect world, right? They actively track down and eat a bunch of pests. But on the other side, you have the parasitoids. And these guys are like something straight out of a horror movie. Seriously, they lay their eggs in or on a host pest, and their babies, well, they literally eat their way out from the inside. Wild. And the effectiveness of these allies, it's absolutely off the charts. A single ladybird beetle, a ladybug, can munch through up to 5,000 aphids in its lifetime. Lacewings and spiders, they are just relentless predators. And then there's the tiny Trichogramma wasp. It's a parasitoid that takes out the destructive cotton bollworm before it even has a chance to hatch. Talk about efficient. And here's where it gets really cool. Plants don't just sit there and take it when they're being eaten. No way. When they're under attack, they release these chemical signals. They're called volatile organic compounds into the air. It's basically a distress call. It's an SOS that says, hey, I need help over here, and it summons these insect allies to come to their defense. It's literally a living, breathing defense system. Okay, so we get the problem, right? And we've met the heroes of our story. So the big question is, how do we help them? Well, that brings us to our next section, designing for our allies. We're talking about how we can transform farms into these resilient, self-regulating ecosystems that actually welcome these creatures in. The whole key here is to create what you could call natural infrastructure. So what does that look like? Well, it means planting things like hedgerows. Those are just rows of shrubs and trees that give these insects a place to live and find shelter. It means planting strips of wildflowers to make sure they have food. And it can even mean building something called Beetle Banks, which are basically these raised strips of grassy earth that give ground-dwelling predators a safe place to hang out.
But here's the thing, it's not enough to just plant a bunch of flowers and call it a day. We have to think more like a restaurant owner. We need to provide a year-round buffet for these guys. That means having a sequence of plants that flower at different times. You've got your early spring bloomers, like mustard. Then you move into summer with things like sunflowers. And you finish the season strong with plants like pigeon pea. The goal is to make sure our allies always have a source of food, no matter what time of year it is.
And all of this, it leads us to our final, and maybe our most important section. All these actions, the wildflower strips, the beetle banks, they're all part of a much bigger idea, healing the entire web of life. And we do that by shifting our whole approach, moving away from a model that just takes and takes to one that actually regenerates. So what does that really mean? Well, it all boils down to a huge shift in our mindset. The old way of thinking was all about pest eradication. It was a brute force approach. Just try to wipe them out completely and who cares about the collateral damage, right? The new regenerative way is about pest regulation. It's about managing populations by helping the ecosystem use its own natural defenses. It's working smarter, not harder.
And hey, this isn't just some vague philosophy. There are real, practical steps to this. Number one, timing is everything. If you have to spray, doing it in the evening or at night when pollinators aren't active can make a huge difference. Number two, use selective pesticides. Instead of a broad-spectrum chemical, choose something like neem oil that only targets the specific pest you have a problem with. And third, and this is a big one, adopt something called Integrated Pest Management, or IPM. It's basically a smarter, data-driven approach that helps farmers figure out if spraying is even necessary in the first place, which prevents just dousing fields in chemicals. So you might be wondering, does this stuff actually work? Oh yeah, absolutely. Just look at this. By simply adopting that IPM framework we talked about, you can cut overall chemical use by 40 to 60%. That's huge. It's smarter, it's often cheaper, and it's way, way safer for the entire ecosystem.
So at the end of the day, here's what we really have to remember. These pollinators, these beneficial insects, they're not just nice to have. They're not incidental. They are the essential threads holding the whole thing together. They're weaving together the entire continuum of life, connecting the soil to the plants, to the animals, and ultimately to us.
And that leaves us with one final big question. We have the knowledge now. We have the tools to work with nature, not constantly fight against it. And this choice, it isn't just for farmers, it's for all of us. So the question is, how are we going to choose to partner with these incredible allies to secure the future of what's on our dinner tables and the health of this living earth?